Hey guys, Dave and Len here. This is Bombs Away, the air war over Europe. And this is from GameFix Magazine. This game, it starts with you have to cut out all the components, and I have mixed feelings about that. No one really likes cutting out counters and stuff, or in this case, you're not cutting out counters, really, you're cutting out cards. But to add insult to injury, they made the damn cards so thin that you can't pick them up from the table. You have to, like, push them off the side of the table and then flip them over. It's the craziest thing ever. I mean, were they that cheap they couldn't have used thicker cardboard? I don't understand. Or at least just plain cardstock or something. But the game, it's really abstract. The Axis puts down their flak and their fighters and some decoys on about the 6 or 8 different spaces on the map, and they're like economic targets, military targets, and political targets. And if the Allies then put out their bombers and their fighters, and you flip over the cards that are in the space, and if there's aircraft on both sides, then you have a dogfight, and the flak will fire then too, and if there's any bombers left, then they try to bomb, and if they bomb, they get victory points or whatever. One other problem with this game is it uses, the event cards are also used as like dice, so every time you have to do something, you have to flip over one of these cards that are almost impossible to pick up off the table without pulling them off the table, so that gets to be really annoying. I wish, I don't know, well, magazine games don't include a dice, but this would have, that doesn't matter. They should have just said, hey, get a 6-sided or 8-sided dice or whatever this game needed to play it.
10-sided. There's some 9s.
Oh, there was some 9s? Oh, okay. But, yeah, game's real abstract. It takes about an hour and a half to play, but I don't know, there's really no strategy or anything, so to be honest, the whole time I was playing the game, I was just watching my watch, and I was actually rooting for Len to win, because there's a mechanic in this where you do like surrender checks, and every time you made me do a surrender check because I was the Axis, if I drew an event card that said 1, the game would be over, so I was praying that I would draw a 1, but as luck has it, I didn't, and I had to play the whole game, which sucked, but... But I understand this is probably the first card game that I know of that was in a war game magazine. But yeah, I definitely don't recommend, and I give this a thumbs down. I understand what they're trying to do and stuff, and the author has made much better games in the future, so maybe this is his first game or something. But did you find any value in this game whatsoever?
I feel like there's a game in there somewhere. It's just like someone needs to edit it or rewrite it.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, this is one example of a game too simple to that it's too boring. That there are a lot of things I never worried about in this, like the ranges of the aircraft or bombers.
Yeah, or running out of fuel or things like that. Yeah, it's too abstract.
And also... They have things like the early bombers and the early Spitfires, and they never, they should have had those like fighter cards saying fighters, and maybe like first generation and then later generation, and bombers first generation, because it's like, spring of 1945, I'm bombing B-24 Ds and B-17Es, in which by this time have been phased out, mostly because they've been shot down.
But they, in their defense, though, they do have some aircraft that don't come in aren't available until a certain turn. You can't research them until a certain turn, because there's like in this game there's 3 piles. There's a research pile, an available pile, and an event card pile that you have. Obviously, the event card pile is just your event cards. The research pile is stuff in there. Let's say you're on turn 2. You've got all the stuff in there from turn 3 through 8 that you can't play yet. And then when you get build points later in the game, you can take ones that are on the proper year and put them in your available pile. And then when a plane is destroyed, it goes back to the research pile, so you have to pay build points for it later to get it back.
Yeah, so... Like I said, I think there's a game in there someplace. Just needs to be make some changes.
Well, there's a lot of war games out there where if you were to play them with the game designer, the game would actually be good. Because he'd be using the rules that are in his head, but the problem is when he wrote the rules down, everything in his head didn't make it into the rule book, or it made it down in such a confused fashion the game would be impossible to play. There's one game, I won't tell you which one it is, it's from one of the modern manufacturers. I have it, I still don't know if I played the game right or not, and that's pretty much what everyone else said. And I know one guy who actually played this game with the manufacturer, and he said playing it with him, it was absolutely nothing like the rule book that they had wrote and released, completely different. So there was a game there, it just never made it into the rule book. But yeah, this one I don't recommend him. You might be able to talk him into recommending it if you got like $20 and he's low on cash or something.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe with someone else who's played it. This is one I could see maybe a couple years from now trying again. But it's like, to me, it's too abstract, too simplified, that it seemed like there were no real decisions to make in this game.
True, yeah.
It's an example of games that are too simple, too low complexity, that they're just boring.
The level of strategy was like the level of strategy you'd get in like a mediocre solitaire game where you really don't make any decisions, you know what I mean? And the few you make don't have much of an effect on the game. But anyhow, that's all we got. Have a good evening.